Today I'm going to show you a quick walkthrough of the PSP DRC, Dynamic Range Controller plugin. I've been a huge fan of PSP for more than 20 years now. They make some of the best audio plugins in the business. So as I've been learning this plugin for myself and figuring out what it can do, I figured I'd make a quick video about its basic functions so you can follow along. So let's start with this drum track you can hear I've got playing behind me. This is from Addictive Drums 2, one of my favorite drum plugins. And then I've inserted the PSP DRC on the drum bus. And then just as a visual reference, I've also inserted the PSP Xenon plugin. It's a mastering limiter plugin, just so you can have a visual reference for how loud the material is getting as we play with things. Now PSP says they were inspired for this plugin by the DBX 118. However, this is not a model of the 118. It's a dynamic range controller that's capable of both compression and expansion in some unique ways. So let's go ahead and dive into the details of this plugin, and I'll manipulate it in real time so you can see what it does. Now, if you want the most basic traditional style of compression, what you want to do is set its mode to above, which means it's only going to affect the signal above the threshold, which is dictated here on this knob. And as I start turning the ratio up, you're going to hear the compression on the drum kit. So you can hear now the dynamic range of the drum kit is greatly smashed. That's a pretty hard smashed drum kit right there. When you do this kind of compression, never forget the ability to do parallel compression, and you can do that with the mix knob here. So right now, you're listening to 100% of the tightly compressed signal, which sounds very pumped and artificial, but is useful in some musical circumstances. But if you dial back the mix, you can mix the dry original drum signal with the highly compressed signal, and you can get the best of both worlds. So listen to this. So right about there, we've still got the pumping of the drum kit, but we've still got enough of the original attacks so that they're not softened. Okay, let me go ahead and reset everything to the default so we can try a different approach. Now let me show you a different kind of processing approach. I'm going to show you downward expansion. This is where, if the drum signal is here, the plugin is going to take any signal that is quieter than that, and it's going to attenuate them or turn it down. To get that, you're going to turn the mode to below, and then you're going to turn the ratio to values lower than 1:1, i.e. to the right. Now, if you watch that meter right there, it's showing you how much it's doing to the signal, how much it's pulling the volume back. And if you really listen to the drums at this point, you can hear that the peaks are still where they were, but the things that are in between the peaks are drier. So this is a technique you can use, for example, if you have a snare drum where the drummer played with a lot of ghost notes, and those ghost notes are too intrusive, and you want to bring the level of those ghost notes down. This is one way you can do that. All right, let me go ahead and reset to the default one more time. Now I'll show you another technique. This is upward compression. This is where the processor is going to boost the signals that are below the threshold. So if the drums are here, it's going to take all the material that's quieter and bring it upwards. In order to do that, set the mode to below, and now adjust the ratios upwards like this. So I'm setting all these things to pretty extreme values so you can really hear the effects of what they're doing. So here, this is the opposite of the example I gave you before. This is where you actually want to bring out the ghost notes and raise them in level so that you have more content, so to speak. All right, let's reset it again to the default settings. So let's get into another mode. There's just a couple more coming. The one I'm going to talk about next is upward expansion. This is where if your drums are at this level, and of course you've got the spikes going in there every time a drum is hit, it's going to take anything that is over the threshold and it's going to amplify it, turn it up. So this is a way of getting more snap, more attack on your incoming signal. The way this is done is you switch the mode to above, and then you adjust the ratios downward, so you turn it to the right. Have a listen to this. Okay, I probably pushed it too far because you can see the limiters overloading a little bit there. But can you hear how the snaps of the attacks of the big hits are really coming out now? So this is something you may use later on in a mix where you're like, I just need that drum kit to be more snappy. All right, let me reset it again to the default. And the next one I'm going to talk about is linear compression. This works across the entire dynamic range. Signals below the threshold are boosted, signals above the threshold are attenuated, brought down. So this is going to give you a more linear response to your signal. So to do this, we're actually going to leave the mode at linear mode, and we're going to turn the ratio upwards like this. Now you can hear that the overall level of the drums has come down. And that's because if your dynamic range used to be from here to here, with the threshold being somewhere in the middle, it's now being crunched like that. So your everything is a little more compacted. Of course, you can compensate for this by using the level. And if you ever want to listen to a before and after, you can just use the proc button, process button. That bypasses the plugin, so you can hear the before and after. Here's with the plugin and without. So you can definitely hear a huge difference in the body of the sound that the plugin is able to pull out and fattenify, for lack of a better word. Okay, you probably guessed where we're going next. I'm going to reset to the default one more time. For linear expansion, if your threshold is here somewhere in the middle, signals below this are going to be turned down, signals above it are going to be turned up, and that is going to give you a much, much punchier sound, probably almost synthetically so, but it can be musically useful. So in order to do this, we're going to leave the mode in linear mode. We're going to turn the ratio the other way. Okay, I went too far because I'm really overloading at this point. But you can hear now how the decays of the drums are not there. It's like you hear the attack and then it's going to zero almost immediately. So again, it sounds synthetic when it's used isolated like this, but in a mix, this can do wonders if you need to bring out the attack of the drums. So there's a quick walkthrough of the different things you can do with the PSP DRC. It really is an incredibly flexible dynamics controlling plugin. And even though today I only use it on drums, you can really use it on any instrument in the mix as well as your overall mix. I do find that having control over parameters like this can really be the difference in a mix that starts to shine and pop and really come out of its shell. So I hope this was helpful. Like and subscribe for more, and I'll see you on the next one.